Hi everyone, Matthew here with Dr. G in Technology, and today we're going to be discussing kind of the idea of a career plan, your career path, and essentially how doing those very early on in your career can really uh, point you in a solid direction for your life in IT and integrating with a solid work-life balance. So before we begin and before we get too deep, certainly comment right below. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and ask us any questions you might have there. Also, click the like button and subscribe so that you can be alerted to any new content that we're publishing to help you along your IT journey. And lastly, be sure to go over and click the IT Village link so that you can join the rest of us over there. People like yourselves, maybe you have questions that you don't want to put here in the video, but you would like to ask regarding career path, general questions in along your IT career, specific questions as well, whether they may be programming related, something job related, who knows, right? Go join the IT Village, and we're there, over there to help you as well. So, on to our journey today. So, this is a little bit about my path, and it can be about yours as well, just kind of depending on where you head in your career and in your life. And I thought this would be great to review. So, off we go. So first and foremost, it's getting started. Whether you're coming, right out of college, or you are job jumping or career changer, at some point you're going to get started. It doesn't matter what age you are. And what I'd recommend, and something that I learned very early on in my career, and I'm going, all the way back to starting as an IT intern, in my final senior year in college, was that relationships are everything, and that meant more to me later in life in my career. But I learned really quickly, the more you fuse with your coworkers, the better you are going to be in terms of just general life questions, specific career questions, day-to-day job questions you might have. I mean, relationships are so key. You've heard me talk about this before, perhaps in other videos regarding like being a mentor or a mentee, even in some cases, just depends on your role. But relationships are so key. They may not always last forever, but when you need someone there for your specific path along the IT career, that person's always there, right? And it doesn't just have to be one. We help each other, we utilize each other as best as we can, so create those relationships, foster those relationships, and keep those relationships. And always try to give more than you receive. Right? That concept. It's certainly difficult to do, especially when you're just getting started in your IT career, and you may not have a lot to offer technologically, but there may be other parts of you that you can offer, whether it be something related to your personality, something outside of work, whatever you can to relate to the people that you're trying to get to relate to you is key. The other thing that happens along the way is you start gaining life experiences. And, certainly more true if you're coming right out of college or moving into your IT career at the very get go. But, if you're job jumping, you've been in there a while, or a career changer, life experiences, same with you. In this case, maybe you're not necessarily getting new ones from scratch, but you're bringing life experiences in that you can help with the first part of this regarding relationships. I always find it interesting to hear, especially early on in my career, how people got into IT. I've mentioned before, I got into it because of my brother. In college, I wasn't sure what to major in. He went down this path, and 25 plus years later, the rest is history. So that was just my closest relationship at the time, way back then. I didn't have really any kind of professional relationships, family, but all of us start somewhere regarding our relationships, and that would be a great start in terms of um, finding that person who can help build those life experiences, and eventually you'll start gaining life experiences. How does that happen in IT career? Well, first and foremost, it happens with the different jobs and tasks that you're given. And initially, you are given them, whatever that may be. Maybe you're asked to create a plan. Maybe you're asked to update code. It just kind of depends on what your what you're gunning for and what position you're in, right? But eventually you start gaining um, work experience, and I say life experience here because usually you find that your what you do in the workplace starts bleeding out into your home life. Eventually, you begin start telling your family, significant other, friends about your coworkers, and those coworkers become your family. They become your day to day people that you see sometimes more than your family, right? So, when I say life experiences here, you start blending the two little by little, especially when you're getting started, because you might be so excited to be in IT. I know I was, and especially learning and helping one another along the way. Another key area that I think is really important right off the get go is financial planning. I didn't necessarily have a well to do background, or a family. I had a family that was middle class. My parents worked hard, and so I learned work ethic. They didn't pay for my schooling. I paid for every dime of it. Um, Without loans even. Just so there's something inside of me regarding financial planning that's always kind of been there. I can't explain where it came from, but I would say that if it's not in you, if it's just not something that you think about a lot, or money's just not the major motivator, and nor should it be. It needs to be, the financial side of your career needs to be established right away, and I think it happens really early in your career. So how do you do that? Well, again, I usually always kind of liked watching, learning, and listening how the adults did it. Again, I was a kid back then in my early 20s, and kind of what they were going through, where they lived, kept up with their kids, and it really taught me valuable lessons regarding what I might be facing somewhere down the road, and I'm there now, regarding family and kids, that sort of thing. But if you can always ask them regarding different things about finances, that might bleed into salary as well. So there's plenty of sources out there. You could be your own HR department in terms of financial planning. I would certainly suggest a financial planner, who most banks these days have them, and there's no shortage of centralized and decentralized way to invest. There's thousands and thousands of videos on investing and financial planning, etc. No shortage, but find what speaks to you and start thinking about how you're gonna divvy up that paycheck, that salary that's gonna start coming in for both the short term as well as the long term. So financial planning is so key to start thinking, even possibly for the next 25 years about where you want to head. I can't emphasize how important that is in terms of starting to think about your short term and long term goals regarding your finances. So as you move along, eventually you start gaining experiences, right? We talked about life experiences. You start realizing that you have to create this work-life balance, right? And I always like to say, this is kind of the person who's been in their career maybe a good 5 years plus, and so they have some experiences under them. They've probably, been mentored, and so now they're a mentor themselves. And it's time to start gaining some management skills, right? So perhaps start volunteering to lead more, different kinds of efforts, right? And that's how you're going to gain experience, because not everything will be handed to you. Some things you'll just have to kind of step up and figure out on your own, troubleshoot, whether it's a laptop or something that has problems, and maybe it's not in your defined job description to figure out, but you do it because you want to learn, you want to help, and you want to gain some experiences. Same goes for the management side, right? Maybe you start um, leading efforts, and so now you might have more on your plate than you think you can handle. But as they say, where there's a will, there's a way, and I certainly believe that's true. So, start gaining those skills in managing people, managing tasks, managing money, and this is the company's money as well, typically. And, that can only help you down the road. Around this time as well, you really start understanding your career and what you like and what you don't like. So many professionals, I think, realize, sitting at a desk 9 to 5, whether it's teleworking or what have you or not, um, just isn't for me. And so they realize I'm not going to stay in this career path, right? Maybe that was you, and you was a reason why you jumped here to IT, or vice versa, you jumped out of IT, right? If you're still watching this video, I've had that from time to time where I start thinking, boy, is this really still for me? Am I still going to be able to do this for another 2 years, 5 years, 2 months, right? Just depends how I feel that day. So a lot of this is honed in on your emotions, how you're feeling, where you want to be in life. And because you've started setting up a bit of a financial plan when you first started, hopefully you have, it's hard to let go of salary, right? But it can happen. If IT is not for you, I would recommend really think long and hard about, well, then what is for you? And if you need that anchor, well, keep your IT career because you just never know. I've seen different statistics out there from researchers, and I remember long ago seeing one regarding if a person stays in a career or a certain location for 7 years at minimum, they're likely going to stay there maybe their entire career. So that's that 7 year itch concept, right? Mine tends to come every 3 years, to be honest. I start getting itchy about wanting to change every 2 to 3 years and adjust, and not necessarily outside of IT, but even doing something fun like this where I get to share all my life experiences, right? So your career direction is really important to start establishing that path of, if I decide to stay in IT, um, do I want to stay technical? Do I want to become a manager, leader, right? You start forming that why right there that we've talked about, where you're moving along in your career, and then eventually you got to decide, do I keep my technical skills and I have to do a lot of constant schooling in terms of updating new certifications? Or do I start going the leadership route, and now I'm being mentored on, a whole lot of other avenues and areas regarding human resource skills, management, leadership skills, etc. But this is a really important stage here, the gaining experience stage, because it really defines probably the next 10 years for you plus about where you're headed. Not necessarily always the case, but certainly a possibility, just depending upon what you decide. So take your time with this one, because the answer may not always come to you right away. It did for me to a degree, because I always knew I always wanted to start my own company, uh, and um, and just spread my wings and try something different. And I did. It's always kind of somewhat been in the vein of technology. I've worked for companies, gotten out, kind of been my own boss, so to speak. I've ebbed and flowed, but have never really veered too far away from what I know is true, and that is, you stick with what you know, right? So keep those experiences coming, because they will help you as you plan your career. So that moves us on to leadership. So you have maybe by now gained those management skills like we talked about in the previous step. Now it's time to actually formally become a leader. And by formally, that could be maybe you do step out and start your own company. And now you're it. You're accountable to every customer that you have now, right? You maybe before had one boss in your old job, now you have many bosses, right? Or you stay in your job and you become an actual leader in the company, like a director, assistant director, even a program manager, right? They all carry certain leadership skills, independent of what you're managing: people, money, tasks, resources, etc. So, here, the important things to consider are to apply leadership skills. And hopefully, you've been practicing them along the way. You've been watching with those different mentors, right? Because your mentors will change. They're different relations, they're based on the relationships that you create and people who you want to emulate, people who you want to be like, even if it is just bits and pieces from this person, bits and pieces from that person. Eventually, you start realizing there are some leadership skills that you like and that you don't like, right? All of us have very dominant leader personalities and subdominant ones as well that we lean on, and others we can read about in various research articles.
As a reminder, click the like button, leave us your comments, let us know what you'd like to hear more of. Also, click the subscribe button and the bell button so that you're immediately alerted anytime a new video is published. Be sure to join our IT Village, which is the link to communicate with others within our YouTube channel over on our platform so that you can get answers to your questions. And lastly, in the upper right corner of our YouTube channel, click the free download of How Much Can I Make in IT?